Organic claps, snaps and shakers. The title already says what this video is about, so let's get started. Here we have a song that I wrote, and I want you to listen closely to the snaps.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Jetzt bin ich mitten im Miata am Start. ESP aus und ab geht die Fahrt. Oh, ich weiß schon, es wird mal der Tag. Ich schulte in den zweiten Gang und gib Gas. Der lokale Bergpass wird unsicher gemacht. Hier wird nur gefühlt und gelacht, nicht gedacht.
The goal of this track is just to shake up the drums a little bit. There is a lot of stuff in the drums that is just 100% centered, and it's kind of cool to shake things up a little bit with some stereo width. What I did here is I used the drum machine module of Bitwig, which if you try to reproduce this with a different DAW, it's a bit like using any kind of drum pad thing, as you can see. Only difference, I don't know if you can reproduce this in every DAW, is that there is a humanize module before each of the samplers of these pads. And I mapped a macro to the timing parameter of the humanizer. The timing control of the humanizer makes sure that MIDI notes sometimes come a little bit earlier or a little bit later than when they actually come in the sound, by having a macro on the timing control of all of the humanizers all together. I have a control for the sloppiness of the snaps, so I can kind of control how I want the snaps to have been performed as the perspective of a natural recording. All of these samplers contain different samples, and actually those are not snaps but clicks, as the names of these pads suggest, but by playing them together like this, it sounds like a snap. Some of the snaps are panned right, some of the snaps are panned left, some might also be centered. That is a nice way to make sure that every single snap is a unique snap that still makes sense, without having to clearly define all of them. Now, if I wanted it to be clearly defined, I could still just decide to bounce. And now I would have the same snaps on all of the positions every time the song repeats. Or I could take this opportunity to further tweak all of the snaps. You know, if I just don't like one of the snaps, I could go ahead and do something like this and decide that I like that more. That is a step that I would say it is optional, because just keeping it random is kind of cool as well. It doesn't always have to be planned out entirely, even if you are very serious about making a good mix. The songs that I'm showing you in this video are part of my upcoming Miata EP, in which I'm basically role-playing different roles, the roles of Jezebel and Sören, and a few other roles that I'm planning to add, and they all drive Miatas, which is cool because Miatas are the best cars ever. This song also contains the technique on the snaps and the shakers.
Ich möchte einen Miata fahren, ich möchte seine keine Motor starten, ich kann nicht warten, seine Pop.
And you can already see that I went about it a little bit differently here. I only used one note, which is honestly a little bit easier than maintaining multiple notes at the same time, when you know that you want to use always all of them, if that makes sense. But except from that, it's basically the same technique. Oh, one little difference. I'm using always the same sample here, because it is a multi-snap sample. And I'm using extremely short envelope settings, except for the last one, because it's for the body. When all of the sounds come together again, it composes back to a completely new snap that just has similar textural qualities. Now here with the shaker, I used basically the same approach, but different shaker samples instead of different parts of the same shaker.
Ich möchte einen Miata fahren, ich möchte seine keine Motor starten, ich kann nicht.
I wish I could show you this song, but for some reason Bitwig just doesn't load the audio engine sometimes. What's going on? Okay, let's try again. Ah, now it works. In this song I want you to listen extremely closely to the claps. The claps are very subtle. I know. It will be one of these things where you think, wait, is there even anything most of the time? But sometimes it will clap through.
Ehrlich so bedenke, weiß ich gar nicht, was ich mir dachte.
This is what it sounds like, by the way.
Beachten. Und jetzt alle, gönn dir den Miata, mein Freund. Man nennt mich Sören. Medical Miata, gönn dir den Miata, mein Freund. Lässt dich betören. Medical Miata.
As you can see, the song even ends on the clap. It's so cool that I can let the song end on something that is kinda random. Now the technique that I used here is similar to one of the techniques before where I just had the multi-snap. In this case it is a multi-clap sample that I split into multiple unique sampler instances. And looking at the panning parameter, at first it might look like there is no panning this time, but you can hear it being panned. That's because I tried a different approach here. I had a randomizer module on every single sampler and it is attached to the panning parameter of every single sampler. So every sample will be on a different position in the room every time it repeats. The randomizer chooses a new random value for each note value, and apart from that it does not move. So it's basically a sample and hold thingy now. That adds a certain kind of instability to the sound. I can't decide yet if I like it more or less than the other approach, but it works for this sound, so I'm cool with it. You might be wondering, why am I using the plugin that I made, ADSR, on this track with this specific shape?
Yeah, that's absolutely what I was just wondering.
And in inverse. The reason is because I'm receiving the notes from the kick. And this visualization here basically showed that every time the kick appeared, it quickly fades out the claps. Let me show you what that looks like as a waveform. It means that whenever the kick is playing, the claps are quieter, so that the transient of the kick has time to breathe, and then the clap comes back very quickly, even before the low end of the kick really starts. It's really just to make space for the transient of the kick, not for the whole kick. Sometimes the peaks can get a little bit higher here, but when it comes before the kick, it's okay, because then the kick has its own transient and then the clap comes back, and together it just sounds, in Germany we would say, wie aus einem Guss, when you do that, because things are going into each other. Pium. Gönn dir den Miata, mein Freund. Man nennt mich Sören. Medical Miata, gönn dir den Miata, mein Freund. This track also contains an organic clap that I want to show you.
Hallo liebe Kinder, ich bin der Erzähler von dieser Geschichte. Ich weiß, ich kam bis jetzt nicht vor, aber es gibt mich wirklich, wie man hört. Ich erzähle Jezebel und Sören, in ihren Miatas geht es ab und sie fühlen sich frei.
Okay, enough of my beautiful singing. As you can see, the Miata EP will not only contain vocal flex voices, but also my own voice. I am the storyteller of the story. And this organic clap track has a lot of clap samples. Actually, it's always the same sample, and this time I'm also taking a lot of these later parts of the samples that are just the body and the sounds ringing out in the room, but I still take them. And hard panning everything is okay, because when everything mixes back together, there will be enough stuff that turns out to be quite centered. It's just like when you have a superstar with a lot of unison voices, and the unison voices are just so many that you just stop hearing the phasing artifacts. I think it's a similar sensation to that. Does that make sense? Huge timing humanizer on this instance, by the way, so I really wanted this clap to be a little more loose and chill. Frei und haben Spaß dabei. Sie turnen ab.
Ich weiß, ich kann nicht die Beste sein. Ohne Fleiß verwechsel ich noch echt von Schein. Und es kann auf dem Zuge wehtun. Darum will und kann ich jetzt nicht mehr warten.
And I'm pretty sure you can also not wait anymore for the Miata EP. It's going to be the best music that has ever been released in the history of music. And this is enough for this video.